Hey y'all, welcome back again to another episode of Healthy Design. I got Stormy, at least she's starting in my lap. We'll see how it goes. Kept my notes in the notebook instead of just a single piece of paper this time, so if she does swat at things, it won't keep making the sound. But first off, if you guys see the shirt, just a little story behind it. Um, my wife, she says she loves me. I assume she loves me. But she'll tend to get shirts. She'll make them for me pretty much around Christmas time. And so we're getting close to Christmas time again. So there's probably something coming this year. But this is one she made a few years ago. You can see it says bubbly, period. I think I've done enough videos by now to where you guys recognize I don't exactly have a bubbly personality. I think I'm funny. I can be sarcastic and dry, but not exactly bubbly. So, again, my wife gets it. She says she loves me. I tell her I like them. Secretly, I go and cry afterwards. Nah, just kidding. I love them. I think they're hilarious. It is funny that, like if we meet someone new, but we've known them for, at least a little while, if I wear the shirt for them, sorry, laughing at Stormy trying to climb, they just bust out laughing when they see it. So I guess it fits, but got to have a little bit of fun, be able to laugh about things too. So enough of that. Let's get started with our discussion today. We'll talk about one more SNP. This time it's PEMT. And what PEMT does, it helps to produce phosphatidylcholine. And so what the structure for that is one choline with three methyl groups. And so we have methyl groups there. We're going to need a good methylation pathway going so that we can make, the phosphatidylcholine. And so SAMe is the primary methyl donor to produce PC. Instead of calling it phosphatidylcholine every time, we'll say PC. Not talking about politically correct. We haven't taught politics, but everyone knows I'm not politically correct, so that wouldn't be a good thing anyway. So if we need so many of those methyl donors, then that could put a stress or a burden on that methylation pathway. So that's kind of why we want to make sure that pathway is working, because then if we're getting enough, adequate intake of choline via food or supplements, then we're not going to require as much from that methylation pathway, so we can kind of help conserve things a little bit. And then it allows that methylation pathway to do more with DNA repair and different things along those lines. So do some of the other functions rather than just trying to produce phosphatidylcholine. But we need phosphatidylcholine for cell membrane health. So the outer membrane is a bilipid layer. All that means is it's two lipids, and then there's a phosphate attached to it. That's what a phospholipid. So it's a phospholipid bilayer, and one side of it is hydrophobic, so it kind of fears water, and then the other side is hydrophilic. It loves water. That's going to be the side that's kind of out of the cell, interacting with things coming in. And then we have cholesterol in that membrane too, and this is for every cell. That helps to keep the fluidity of that cell membrane, which we want. We don't want it becoming too stiff or rigid because then things can't function well. There'll be proteins in there as well. They'll act as receptors, help to transport things in and out, help provide some structure. And as we know, structure determines function. And then there are some carbohydrates in there too. So like you have the phospholipids, you'll have glycolipids. So the carbohydrates will be attached to some of those lipids, and then it kind of helps to serve as a way for the body to recognize that cell. So again, cholesterol is needed, proteins needed, carbohydrates are needed. We need all those things for the cell membrane to be healthy, and we need the cell membrane healthy so that the cell can be healthy, and then we need those different vesicles inside and structures inside to be healthy too. Mitochondria being one of the main things there. Let's see. So phosphate, again, like I said, it's a phospholipid, so it's a lipid with a phosphate group attached. Phosphate is a mineral that's very important for our health. It's a mineral, so it plays a role in bone health, teeth formation, making sure our teeth are strong. It's involved with cell function. Sorry, Stormy's playing with my shoelaces and everything, so that's why I look down. So it's involved with cell function and energy metabolism. And I mean, just think about it for a second. When we produce energy, it's in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So we need three phosphates for that. That gets used up and broken down into ADP, adenosine diphosphate. And then one of the things too that plays a role in energy metabolism is creatine phosphate. So again, we see that phosphate showing up a lot. One other thing too to note with creatine, that's another thing that we need methylation to work really well for, so that creatine is produced too. So kind of see some interactions there. So some other things that PC will do, it helps to produce bile from or helps with bile flow from the gallbladder. So it can also help with kind of packaging and storing triglycerides, and the fat that we eat is going to be broken down into triglycerides, and then we need a way to help store that, and so it helps out with that too. Um, the other thing with the bile, it does have antimicrobial properties too. That's something most people don't kind of think about. So just a little FYI for you. So some other things, PC is essential for nerve function, muscle function, brain development. Um, Part of the reason for that is it's a precursor for acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter. It's involved with like learning and memory and focus, concentration, things along those lines. That also plays a role in muscle contraction. Um, and so what PEMT is doing is providing phosphatidylcholine, which is again a precursor for the acetylcholine, and then it helps our body can get the choline that it needs for different functions from this area too. And we need that choline on that methylation side. If you guys remember back, for methylation, there is a folate dependent pathway, but then there was a betaine or betaine dependent pathway that relies on choline to do that. And so, again, choline, eggs, red meat, chicken, fish, those are some good sources of getting choline. Let's see. And then choline itself will help to support liver function, again, nerve function, muscle function, also with energy levels and metabolism. And so, I mean, again, I think energy metabolism of the cell plays a key role in everything. And this is why I think, cell danger response and focusing on the mitochondria makes a whole lot of sense. Because if our cells can't produce energy, then they can't do their function. Whatever function they have, they need energy to be able to do it. And so we need that energy metabolism to be functioning well, so that the nerve can, or the cell can function well, the nerve can function well, whatever can function well. If that's impaired, then we're going to have limitations and we're going to have impairments that come out. So again, that's part of the reason why all this is so important. And so some of the strengths for having this SNP at the PEMT, if you do have cancer, it actually will allow you to have a better response to chemo. So the treatment can be a little bit more effective. Um, One thing too for women, estrogen helps to kind of preserve choline. So if a woman is premenopausal, and so they're still having their cycle, still having a good bit of estrogen, then their need for choline actually is less. Since the estrogen helps to preserve it, they don't need as much. There's not as much to have to replace and kind of keep bringing in. So that's something to keep in mind. Um, with most of these, we keep talking about too what key nutrients are there. I'm going to give you one guess on the key nutrient. We've mentioned it many, many times already. That's right, you guessed it. Choline. So choline is going to be the key nutrient for this that we need. Again, if we're getting enough through our food or supplementation, then this PEMT pathway is not having to work so much trying to produce it, which then can take some load off of the methylation pathway, and then it can focus more on doing the other things that it needs to do. So again, let's kind of go back. PEMT requires SAMe. That's the main methylation donor for it. And so we need good methylation for this to function well. But for methylation, we also need adequate folinic acid. We need it because it helps with the base production, your DNA base production, helps with DNA repair, helps with ATP production, so energy. But then we also need folate for that methylation pathway because we have that folate dependent pathway. And then again, methylfolate can help to bypass any kind of issues with MTHFR if you have that. So again, we start to see where some of these different things interact with each other. So I mean, if we do maybe have a decrease in that methylation pathway, but PEMT is working really well and producing a lot of choline, then maybe it can kind of help that beta-ene dependent pathway take over and provide what's kind of missing from that folate dependent pathway. Again, it just depends on how things play out. There's other SNPs, other genes involved with methylation and things too. And so we kind of have to see all of them and how it pieces together. We can't just say like, oh, we got this issue with MTHFR, so now it's going to put all this load on PEMT and we're going to have an issue with it. That very well could be the case, but it may not be the case. It may not be how your body's wired. It may have these other backup redundant systems that kick in and they kind of take up that stress and that brunt of it, and then you don't notice anything at all. So that's the great thing about the human body. It's pretty miraculous how it does things. And again, that's why I say, if we can try to get that energy production, cell metabolism part correct and get out of the way, the body will tend to take care of itself pretty well. So, all right, guys, that's it for PEMT. Next week, we'll kind of wrap up all the genetics and SNPs and move on to something else. So next week, we'll wrap it up. We'll talk, briefly about soak and scrub, which we did before, and then we'll get a little bit more into the spot cleaning for the different genes, kind of the order. I don't know exactly how specific we'll get on all those things. I probably just will kind of be very general with it, and then if you want more specific information, by Dr. Lynch's book, I think it's a good book. It's got a lot of good information. I think you'll learn a lot. And then if you are kind of a DIYer, you want to do it yourself, I think it gives you a good kind of base program to follow. And you can kind of see how things go and where it takes you. But appreciate you guys watching. Please like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And we'll see you next time.